Welcome to Jazz Piano Skills. I'm Dr. Bob Lawrence. It's time for you to turn off your eyes and turn on your ears. No video, no distracting images, no pop-ups, and no advertisements. Just great educational content for you to hear, for you to discover, learn, and play. Last week we explored chords grouped by family. Today we are going to explore chords grouped by key. But before we do, I want to take a minute, as I did last week, to stress that this lesson is about chords and not voicings. There's a huge difference between the two. Once again, when you study chords, you are looking at how various sounds, major, dominant, minor, half diminished, and diminished, are constructed, their similarities and their differences, how they are built from the ground up, nothing fancy, root, third, fifth, and so on. As I touched upon last week, when you study voicings, you are exploring various ways to actually play the chords. In other words, exploring various ways to arrange the notes of the chord so that they produce a stylistically correct sound for the genre of music you are wanting to perform. As you can see, chords and voicings are two very different jazz piano skills. Today, we are once again focusing on chords and their relationship within the context of a key. So let's get to it. To begin, I want to stress that, at least to me, and I believe this to be the case for most jazzers, the terms major scale and key are synonymous terms. In other words, when I speak of the C major scale and the key of C major, I am actually speaking of the same thing, the same 7 notes and the same harmonic structures that are constructed using those same 7 notes. Today, we're going to look at the chords that are produced by each major scale. If you already are familiar with the 12 major scales, fantastic. If not, I would recommend pausing this talk, go to the internet, do a search for the 12 major scales, and then print the page. Now that you have the 12 major scales in front of you, let's take a look at the C major scale. If you circle every other note of the C major scale, you end up with 4 notes: C, E, G, and B, which is the C major 7th chord. Pretty easy to construct. And as you learned last week, once you have the major 7th chord constructed, you can easily build the remaining 4 chords by simply altering the 3rd, 5th, and the 7th. Now, I want you to take a piece of paper and a pencil. Remember when I mentioned the importance of doing paper practice in last week's lesson? Well, we're getting ready to do some good old paper practice right now. I want you to spell the C major scale starting on the note D. You should end up with D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, starting with the note D, circle every other note. You will end up with the notes D, F, A, and C. We now have the D minor 7th chord. Once again, pause this lesson and repeat the same process for each of the 7 notes. Now that you have taken the time to write out the C major scale, starting from each note of the scale, and circled every other note of the scale, starting from the first note of each mode, you now have established the 7 chords belonging to the key of C major. They are as follows: Chord 1, C major 7th, C, E, G, B. Chord number 2, D minor 7th, D F A C. Chord 3, E minor 7th, E G B D. Chord 4, F major 7th, F A C E. Chord 5, G dominant 7th, G B D F. Chord 6, A minor 7th, A C E G. And chord 7, B half diminished 7th, B D F and A. Let's play these chords on the piano. Chord number 1, C, E, G, and B. C major 7. Chord number 2, D, F, A, and C. D minor 7. Chord number 3, E, G, B, and D. E minor 7. Chord number 4, F, A, C, E, F major 7. Chord number 5, G, B, D, F, G dominant 7. Chord number 6, A, C, E, and G, A minor 7. And chord number 7, B, D, F, and A, B half diminished 7th. Fantastic. Here's what they sound like when played one after the other. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G dominant, A minor, and B half diminished. Those are the 7 chords belonging to the key of C major. You now are going to repeat this same process for the remaining 11 notes, the remaining 11 scales. Once you do, you will have successfully mapped out all 12 keys and the chords belonging to each of those keys. Invaluable information indeed. Be sure to take note that the 1 and 4 chords are always major chords. The 2, 3, and 6 chords are always minor chords. And the 5 chord is always dominant, and the 7 is always half diminished. When I say always, I am speaking from a music theory perspective. It doesn't mean that musicians do not break the rules and change the standard chord qualities when improvising or composing, because they do. That's an entirely different lesson, and besides, you have to know the norms before you can understand the exceptions. You have to know the rules before you can break the rules. So for right now, 1 and 4 chords are major, 2, 3, and 6 chords are minor, 5 chord is dominant, and the 7th chord half diminished. A quick side note. Some listeners may be asking, what determines whether a chord is major, minor, dominant, etc.? The answer is interval relationships. In other words, the distance between each of the notes within the chord. For example, the distance between the root and the third and the fifth, and the 5th and the 7th. I will be teaching interval relationships in an upcoming lesson. For now, simply go with the flow and know that 1 and 4 chords are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, 5 is dominant, and 7 half diminished. Now that you have successfully mapped out the chords belonging to all 12 keys, it's time to master them intellectually, orally, and physically. Intellectual mastery begins with, of course, paper practice. Spend time spelling your chords and reciting them. For example, say to yourself, the chords in the key of A flat major are, and you should be able to say A flat major, B flat minor, C minor, D flat major, E flat dominant, F minor, and G half diminished. Likewise, you should be able to spell each of those chords. A flat major, A flat C, E flat G, B flat minor, B flat, D flat, F, A flat, C minor, C, E flat, G, B flat, D flat major, D flat, F, A flat, C, E flat dominant, E flat, G, B flat, D flat, F minor, F, A flat, C, E flat, and G half diminished, G, B flat, D flat, F. Here is the brutal truth. If you cannot recite the chords belonging to a key and easily spell the chords belonging to a key, you will have difficulty accomplishing and achieving your dream of becoming a jazz pianist. So spend time doing the paper practice. Spend time mapping out the data. Spend time learning, studying, reciting, and repeating the process over and over again. Trust me, it will eventually become second nature to you, and that is exactly what we want to have happen. Oral mastery begins with actually playing them and saying out loud the chord name. I call this technique say and play. For example, thinking in the key of E flat major, you should be able to say and play in both hands at the same time the chords belonging to the key of E flat. You should be able to E flat major 7, F minor 7, G minor 7, A flat major 7, B flat dominant 7, C minor 7, and D half diminished 7. Say and play the 7 notes, the 7 chords belonging to each key in both hands. Physical mastery begins with playing them in a musical context and in time. Using an app like iRealPro or a software application like Band in a Box will help you immensely accomplish this goal. We have covered a lot of ground in a very short period of time. So, the wonderful thing about this format, you can listen to this over and over again. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can always be reached at my office at the Dallas School of Music. Phone number is 972-380-8050. My extension is 211. Or you can use the contact form located on the homepage at jazzpianoskills.com. Or feel free to email me directly, drlawrence@jazzpianoskills.com. I hope you have found this lesson to be beneficial. If you are wanting to study this topic extensively, I encourage you to check out my Jazz Piano Skills curriculum at jazzpianoskills.com or jazzpianoskills.store. My courses are packed with comprehensive lessons that explore essential jazz piano skills. My lessons contain detailed instruction and illustrations, in-depth educational talks, interactive learning media, traditional guides and worksheets, high-def video demonstrations in all 12 keys, play-along tracks, professional and personal educational support, and of course, mobile access to all the courses and lessons from any of your smart devices. Check it out, jazzpianoskills.com, jazzpianoskills.store. That's it for now, and until next week, enjoy the journey, and most of all, have fun as you discover, learn, and play jazz piano.